So we're going to start with our Pilates stance. We take our knees hip distance apart, our feet are hip distance apart, so we've got that nice straight line from the hip down to the knee. Just find those points of balance between the big toe, little toe and the heel. So just have a little play around with the feet, just find that point of balance. Standing nice and proud, long through the spine. Imagine there's a helium balloon pulling your spine up towards the ceiling. So we're really lengthening through each vertebra of the spine. Hands just nice and relaxed down by the side. Visualize holding a tennis ball between your chin and your chest, so you want your head to be in its natural position, floating on top of the spine. So to start with, we're going to just start with some pelvic tilt. So you can put your hands on your hips. Just get that feedback from the pelvis. If I show you from the side, we're going to arch through the lower back. So just pushing the pelvis backwards, just arching through the lower back. Bringing it back to center. Flattening now through the lower back, so tilting the pelvis in the opposite direction. So just have a little go of those. Just take it backwards, back to center, taking it forwards. Just mobilizing that pelvis, just mobilizing through the lower back. Coming to rest in that neutral position now. So that's the position that we want to hold the pelvis in throughout the session, and I will recap that as we go, just to bring you back into that neutral position. So Pilates breath, we inhale through the nose and we inhale laterally. So as you inhale, feel the rib cage expand. Really fill the lungs with fresh oxygen. As you exhale, feel the rib cage compress. Inhale, feel that expansion. Exhale through the mouth as if you're blowing on a feather or through a straw. Gentle, long, deep exhale. Inhale here again. Exhale. So inhaling again, and as we exhale, we're going to start initiating our core, activating our core muscles. So as you exhale, think about pulling your tummy button in towards your spine. So starting to fire up this core chamber. So this is where the center of all Pilates movements comes from. Inhale, exhale, let's pull that tummy button in towards the spine. Inhale again. Exhale. So again, this is the rhythm of breath you want to keep throughout the session. If you lose it, if you forget about it, just come back to it, and I will remind you to keep coming back to that center. So final piece of our puzzle, we've got our spinal alignment, our pelvic alignment, our breath. The final piece is the pelvic floor. So that's the sort of the bottom part of this core chamber. So inhale again, as we exhale, the tummy comes in, the pelvic floor muscles activate. So imagine closing the door of a lift, bringing it up to the first floor. So those muscles that you would brace when you step into cold water. Inhale. Exhale, let's pull in that tummy button, pull in that pelvic floor. Keeping that length through the spine. Pelvis nice and neutral. Taking the arms down by the side now. Inhaling as we prepare. As we exhale, we're just going to bring the arms up to the shoulders. Just gently floating the arms up towards the shoulders to shoulder height. Inhale, bring them back down. So always exhaling on the effort. Inhale, bring it back down. Just try to move both arms symmetrically, leading that movement with the shoulder. So shoulder's really important to our posture, so keeping the shoulder in good alignment, keeping it nice and active. It's a key part of what we're doing. Let's do one more. Exhale. Inhale, bringing it down. So we're going to add a bit of a heel lift now, so activating through the hip, through the knee, through the ankle. So inhaling again, I'll show you from the side. As we exhale, just peeling one heel off the floor, so coming up onto the ball of the foot. Inhaling it down. Exhale, let's take it onto the other side. So the key here is to keep that alignment within the pelvis. So we're just hinging through the hip here. There's no movement coming from the lower back. So imagine you've got some headlights on your hip bones. You want those to keep facing forward. So just isolating through that hip muscle. Exhale. So bringing the arms in again. If you let them drop, always pulling that head up towards the ceiling, keeping those tummy buttons pulled in towards our spine, keeping the core nice and active. If you're happy where you are, If you're finding this is enough for you, you can stay here. Otherwise, I'm going to come up onto both toes. So a little bit trickier now. You may feel that you're activating your core a little bit more to sustain your balance. Exhale. Inhale, let's bring it down. Exhale, lift it up, pulling that tummy button in. Find something to focus on if you find that you're wobbling. Just a soft gaze into the distance. Bring it down. Let's do 2 more of those. Exhale. So working on our coordination here as well. So moving the legs and the arms together. Bringing it down. Bring it down back to center. Give your legs and arms a little bit of a shake if you need to. Always coming back into that neutral position. So we're going to do a similar movement, but this time we're going to bend through the knee. So we're going to come into a gentle squat. So imagine that you're perching onto the edge of a chair. So you've got some activation now into the backs of the legs and the ankles. We're going to do the same thing again. So as we raise one arm this time, peeling one heel off the floor, the opposite heel. Inhale it back. Exhale. Inhale, bring it down. Exhale. Just gently alternating here from side to side. So the body's working in opposition. So there's a lot more sort of going on, a lot more to think about. So you've got that sort of diagonal tension within the abdominals. Exhale. Let's do a couple more on each side. Just noticing any wobbles, any shakes. This muscle's working nice and hard. You should never feel any pain in Pilates. You'll feel discomfort. That means something's working, but if it is painful, then do stop, join back in, or drop it down to the lower level. 1 more on each side. Bringing it now back to center. Again, just give yourself a little bit of a shake if you need to. Now I'm going to add those 2 things together. So we're going to go into our squat, come up standing, then come up onto the heels. So inhale as we prepare. Exhale, let's squat gently onto the edge of that chair, keeping those heels pushed down, really lengthening through the lower legs. Inhale. Exhale, coming up onto the heels now, onto the toes. Inhale. If you want to add the arms, you can add the arms as well, just to add a little bit of balance. Exhale. So always coming back to that core, keeping the tummy button pulled in towards the spine. Exhale. Exhale, let's take it down. So you go a little bit deeper this time. Really work into those hip flexors, start to activate the glutes. So really good for strengthening the lower back here as well. Because our lower back takes a lot of the strain if our glutes, our bum muscles are weak, or we've got tightness in the hip flexors. So really working those muscles is really good for taking strain off the lower back. Let's do 1 more. Exhale. Bringing it up now, come back down onto the feet. Give yourself a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a reset. Just going to do 1 more movement in this sort of position. I talk a lot, I get a dry mouth. Okay. So we're going to add a little bit of rotation now to the spine. So again, good for the lower back. The more rotation we've got in the upper half of the spine, the less work the lower back has to do. So inhale here. As we exhale, we're going to come into our chair sit. Raise 1 arm overhead. And we're rotating over the opposite way. Again, keeping those hips facing forward. Remember those headlights. Inhale, we're coming back to center. Exhale, we're taking it over the other way. So always coming back to that center point, just rechecking our posture. Exhale, over the other way. Back to center. Let's take it down. Inhale here. Exhale, take it down again. So you can get a little bit deeper on that squat, pushing those heels down towards the floor. Exhale. Let's do 1 more each side. Down the other way. Bring it back. Gently drop the arms. Give the shoulders a little bit of a roll because the arms have been working quite hard. Just shake it all out. Do what you need to do. Okay. Now I'm going to take the feet a little bit further than hip distance apart, just to a point where you still feel nice and stable. So the feet will be rotated outwards naturally with the rotation of the hip. Again, we want to find that neutral pelvis. So you may find in this position that your lower back wants to arch. So we want to bring that pelvis back into alignment. Arms can be resting on your hips. They can be out by your side, wherever you want them to be. Inhaling here. So exhale, we're just going to lunge over to one side. Just taking the knee over the heel, over the toes. Inhale back to center. Over the other way. So imagining almost that you're moving between two panes of glass. So you just want to move side to side. You don't want any deviation forwards or backwards. So really working here with our pelvic control. Inhale. Let's take it down. Back to center. Again, try to get a little bit deeper now as you've started to activate the muscles within the thigh. Let's take it down. Let's do one more of those each side. Last one, make it a good one. Bring it back to center. Drop the arms down if you need to. Give them a little bit of a shake. Wake them up. Okay, so staying in this position, and we're going to do the same thing again with our heel lifts. So put the arms where you want them to be so you're able to balance and you're comfortable. Inhale here as you prepare. Exhale, let's peel one heel off the floor. So a little bit tricky here because our leg is abducted and it's also in rotation. So the muscles are working a little bit differently from they would when they work forward. We're taking the leg forward. Exhale. Again, we want minimal movement here in the hips. So those headlights are still facing forward. If you want that feedback, put your hands onto your hips. Just notice if your hips are staying in that neutral alignment. Exhale. Take it over. Let's do one more each side. Keeping nice and upright. Our spine is still long. That balloon is still pulling us up towards the ceiling. Exhale. Bring it now back to center. Going again to a bit of a deeper squat now. So squatting on both legs. So again, your hands can be on your hips, out to the side, or in a prayer position. Pelvis is tucked under, so we want that natural position of the lower back. Inhaling here. So exhale, we're going to drop the hips down towards the floor. Just nice and gentle. The movement here is more about control, keeping that control of the pelvis than trying to go sort of lower and faster. Inhale, bring it up. Exhale, let's take it down again. So taking the knees over the toes, trying to keep that symmetry on both sides. Exhale. It's really strange for me because I don't normally see myself, but on this I've got a video of myself going back to me, which is really weird. I'm still trying to get used to it. Inhale, let's do two more. Exhale it down. Let's see if we can get a little bit deeper on that squat now. Bring it back up. We're feeling those hip flexors activating. Exhale. Let's bring it up, taking the arms down. We're now going to go into the hinge within the hips. So if I show you from the side, the legs are staying where they are. So we want to find that neutral position in the pelvis. This movement is good for training our hips to do a lot of the work in doing things like lifting and carrying. Because again, we tend to focus on our lower back. So if we're able to isolate the hips, it can help relieve some strain on the lower back. So inhale here. Hands can be on the hips if that's comfortable. As we exhale, we're going to hinge from the waist here. So isolating through the hip joints. Just coming up to a tabletop position. Don't go any lower than parallel to the floor. If you find it's too much, just come as far as you're comfortable. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, let's bring it back up. So working those spine extensors through the length of the spine to bring us back up. Inhale. Exhale, taking it down again. Just coming into that tabletop position, remember. Keeping that length through the spine. So the spine is moving as a single unit here. Head is floating up on top. Let's do one more of those. Exhale. Just finding that point of balance, taking a big inhale here. Exhale, let's bring it back up. Bring the feet back to center. Again, just give yourself a little reset if you need to. We're going to do one more movement in a standing position. This time starting with the legs in a staggered position, but we still want the knees and feet in alignment with the hips, so we still want that hip width distance. So taking the front leg forward to a point where you feel your balance is challenged, but you've still got control of the movement. Again, your hands can be on your hips, or they can be out to the side. Pressing that back heel down towards the mat, feel that length through the back of the leg. Inhale here as we exhale, we're going to take the front knee over the toes. Inhale, bring it back. Keeping the upper body nice and static, so the abdominals are working here, the spine extensors are working to keep the body upright, so we don't want to be folding into that front leg, we just want to be isolating through the hip and the knee. Inhale. Let's do 3 more, let's make it 6. Remembering to push that back heel down towards the floor, so the back leg is still working quite hard here. Exhale. Now I've lost count, so I'm going to make you do 1 more anyway. Exhale. Bring it back to center. So we're going to go up onto our toes again. So come up to a point where you feel you're comfortable. So really bracing here through the abdominals. Inhale. Exhale, let's lift up onto the toes. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, let's bring it up. Just take to a point where you find that sort of sweet point where you can control it. Then bring it back. If we try to overdo that, then we're doing the movement a bit of an injustice. So the important thing is getting the movement right, rather than trying to take it to the extreme. Exhale, let's do 1 more. Bring it back to center. So we're going to go again to our forward fold. Somebody is coming along. And we have 1 more now. Fabulous. So coming into that split stance, coming into our forward folds again. So remember, we're hinging through the hips here. Exhale, let's take it forward. The knees can have a soft bend if that's comfortable. But just remembering to push that back into the floor. Coming into a tabletop, no lower. Inhale, back to center. Let's do 2 more of those. We'll flip it over the other way. Inhale, back up, really working through those spine extensors here. Abdominals and pelvic floor are still working. Inhale, back to center, bringing the feet together, swapping over onto the other leg. I'm going to come this way so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So starting again in that split stance, remember feet facing forward. You want to keep our alignment with the hips. Nice and long through the spine, that balloon is still pulling us up towards the ceiling. Inhale here, as we exhale, let's take that front leg over the knee, the front knee over the toes even. Bring it back to center. Pushing that back heel down towards the floor. Remember, lengthening through the back of the leg. Exhale. Bringing it back to center now. Let's do 3 more. Let's do 6. So again, we're just isolating through the hip and the knee, keeping the upper body upright, using our muscles in our back and our abdominals. Let's do 1 more. Back to center now. So find that control within the tummy. Find your balance on your toes, and we're going to go up, lifting onto the balls of our feet. Exhale. Find that point of focus. Inhale, bring it down. Exhale. So just slow, controlled movement. So working with the body, just listening to what the body can do. Exhale. Bring it back down now, pushing the back heel down to the floor. Bring the soft bend into the knee if you need to. So inhaling here, exhale again, isolating through the hips. Let's take it into that tabletop. Inhale, bring it back up as we exhale. Exhale, taking it down. So really challenging our balance here, particularly as our centre of gravity is shifting. So you may find lots of muscles are sort of starting to wobble and shake and activate. That's exactly what we're wanting to do. Inhale, back to centre. bringing the feet back together. So we're going to come into a low squat now. So if you saw my Facebook yesterday, you'll see that I realised I need to do more squatting, so I'm afraid you're victim to that as well. So we're going to come to the side. So your hands can be in front of you if your balance is a bit more challenged, and you can take your feet a little bit wider than hip distance as well. So just work with what you're comfortable with. Otherwise, our hands are going to come onto our hips. We're going to gently squat down. So again, we want to try to keep the heels pinned down towards the floor, or at least kind of activate that movement, keep us grounded. Exhale, let's bring it down. So trying to come now into that gentle squat. Slow and controlled, abdominals, pelvic floor are really working hard here. So coming to rest in that squat position. Adjust yourself here if you need to. Find where you're comfortable. If you want to keep one hand on the floor, then you can do. Otherwise, we're going to bring the arms up, alternately like we did before when you were standing. So exhale, let's bring one arm overhead. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, take it up. Exhale, let's change it over. Inhale, down. Exhale, take it up. Let's do one more on each side. Exhale. Exhale. Coming now to sit down into a seated position. So I'm going to just move the camera a little bit closer now, because you don't need to see my head at a height. So I'll bring you a bit closer and you get more of an idea. There we go. Okay, hope you're all having fun. I'm enjoying myself, even though I can't see you or what your thoughts are, but hope you're enjoying it. Okay, we're going to start in a seated position with the legs bent. Again, we want the feet to be hip distance apart, finding the sit bones in the bottom of the pelvis. So that's where we want to be resting. We're just going to start by sort of activating the spine to find that posture. So as we did when we were standing up, just rocking the pelvis backwards and forwards. So imagine that your pelvis is a bowl of water. You want to spill that water out the front, spill it out the back, then come into that neutral position. That balloon is still working hard, still lengthening through the spine. So we're grounding here through the hips and through the feet. So remember, big toe, little toe and heel. So they're providing that foundation for the legs. So I'm going to give you two options here. One, you can hold on to the back of the knees. You can need a little bit more stability. Otherwise, we're going to take the arms out to shoulder height. We're going into our hinge movement again, so keeping the neutral position of the spine. As we exhale, just hinging now through the hips. So really feeling that activation through the thighs. Inhale, let's take it back to center. Exhale it down. Inhale, let's take it up again. So you'll get to a point where that sweet point where you can still control it and bring yourself back up. So just find that. So I want you to do a little bit of challenge. I want you to feel the abdominals really working. But be careful not to fall backwards. So you've got to maintain that control within the abdominals. Let's do one more. Exhale. So if you're happy with this, you can stay here. Otherwise, we're going to add a leg lift. So you can either have the leg bent or we can take it long. So working a bit hard here in the lower abdominals to lift the leg, challenging the sort of resting leg to work a bit harder to keep us stable. Exhale. Exhale, take it down. Let's do two more each side. Exhale, really lengthening through that leg as it comes up, so everything is working nice and hard. Hinging through the hips, coming back up to that neutral position. So staying here for a little while longer. We're still going to be doing our hinging, but this time I want you to imagine you're pulling on a bow and arrow. So as we pull that bow backwards, we're going to add a little bit of a rotation. Again, trying to keep that position of the hips so the hip bones are still facing forward. Inhale. Exhale, let's take it back the other way. Exhale, so really squeezing the air out the lungs as you exhale, providing that sort of final piece of the core chamber, providing that stability. Exhale. Exhale, take it down. We're going to do one more each side now. Exhale. Coming back to center, just open the legs, just bring the soles of the feet together just to release a little bit through the hips, just give a little bit of a stretch, so take it forward if you want to as well. Just provide some release for the hips before we move on. And I'll leave you there. I have a little bit of juice. Okay, so we're nearly halfway through. You're doing really, really well. I hope you're still with me, still enjoying it, and I'm not pushing you too hard, but you feel like you're achieving something. That's what we want. Okay. So I'm going to bring you down onto your backs now. So hopefully you'll still be able to hear me. I'll do my best. So coming onto our backs, just find that position, just allow your sort of back to settle into the mat. Shoulders are relaxed and down, so you just want the upper body to be relaxed, but just providing a little bit of an anchor. Inhale, as we exhale, we lift one leg up into a tabletop position. Exhale, let's bring the other leg up to meet it. So I want you to imagine here that you've got a marble under your lower back and you're trying to crush it. So that contact between your lower back and the mat, we want to try to maintain that. Keep the pelvis in its neutral position. So starting here, take a big inhale. As we exhale, we're just going to drop one leg down to the floor. So again, the movement here is coming from the hip. The knee is staying in the same position. Exhale, so pointing through the toes, really lengthening through the back of the leg. Inhale. Exhale, take it down. So you may find that you can't get all the way down to the floor without this happening. So take it to a point where you can still control it and bring it back. It'll just be a case of continuing with it, strengthening those lower abdominals, getting a bit more flexibility into the hip, and it will come. Exhale. Bringing it back now. Let's do one more each side. Exhale. Bring it down. Let's bring the legs back down to the mat. So coming now in contact with the mat. So the position of our spine now has changed. So we've now got a little bit of a natural arch in the lumbar spine. So just again, tilt that pelvis. Remember, tipping the water out of the bowl. Just find that neutral point where the pelvis is in that midway position. Again, shoulders are relaxed and down. So inhaling here, as we exhale, we're just going to slide one toe along the floor. So find a point where you can really lengthen through the leg. Inhale to bring it back. Exhale. So I want you to imagine here that you've got a spirit level across your hips. So you want to keep that horizontal placement of each of the hip bones. Inhale back to center. Exhale, let's take it over the other side. So using those lower abdominals here to control the leg, keep the pelvis stable as the leg is moving. Exhale. Let's do one more each side, and if you're feeling adventurous, we're going to add some arms as well. So again, as we did when we were standing up, opposite arm, opposite leg. So taking the arm and leg to opposite ends of the room. So really stretching here through the whole length of the body. Imagine your arm and leg being pulled away from each other. Exhale. So between the hips and the shoulders, we're staying relatively static. So all that control is coming from the abdominals, from the core. So just moving through the shoulder, through the hips. Exhale. Let's do one more each side. Really lengthening through the arm and leg. Really feeling those muscles activating. Bring it back to center. So arms can rest again for now. We're going to take the legs out to the side, so adding a rotation into the hip. So a little bit trickier to control the position here. So again, just bringing your sort of mind back to that spirit level. We want to keep the hips grounded. So exhaling here, your arms can be out to the side for a little bit of stability. As we exhale, we're going to drop one knee out to the side. So just take it to a point where, again, you can control it and bring it back. We don't want this to happen. We don't want the other hip to follow. We want to keep the opposite hip pressed down into the mat. Bring it back to center. Exhale, let's take it over the other side. So just gentle flow from side to side. You might find that one side is tighter than the other or looser than the other. Everybody has imbalances, so that's to be expected. Just work with what you've got. The more you practice Pilates, the more you'll find that that symmetry comes back. Exhale. Let's do one more of those each side. Bring it back to center now, using those abdominals. Bring it back. Just give yourself a little bit of a shift around if you need to. Bring the pelvis back into neutral alignment. We're going to give the legs a bit of a rest now and work more into our abdominals. I'm not going to be too hard on you, just going to give a little bit of a gentle crunch. So two options here really. So the full movement, we're going to inhale the arms overhead. Again, be mindful not to arch through the back, keep those abdominals active. As we exhale, lifting the head, neck and shoulders, squeezing that air out. So bringing the ribs closer towards the hips. Inhale, bring it back down. If that's too much, you can lift from here. You can put your hands behind your head as well for a little bit of a support, just not pulling on the neck. Inhale, the arms overhead. Exhale, let's take it up. Gently bringing it back. So it's just a small movement really, but works quite deep into the abdominals because they get quite contracted, so they really start to activate. So one of the simpler sit-up positions, nice and gentle to get you started. Bring it back to center. Let's do two more. Exhale. Last one, let's see if we can get a little bit further up now. Exhale. Bring it down. Bring the arms back by the side. Just bringing one knee in towards the chest. Bring the opposite knee in. Just give yourself a little bit of a hug. Oh, make the most of it because you won't be here for long. Just rolling it out. Just releasing the lower back. I'm going to bring you onto your sides now. So if anybody's got sort of aches and pains, shoulders, hips and things, maybe you could put a cushion or a towel underneath, just for a little bit of extra padding. Otherwise, we're going to come and lie on our side. We're propped up on our elbow. So we want this right angle between the wrist, the elbow and the shoulder. Knees are pushed back so that they're in line with our hips. So starting to challenge the lower back straight away. So I'm going to give you three options here. So the top arm can be on the hip. So the first layer, inhale as we exhale, we're just going to initiate a lift. So just pushing the knees into the mat, just feeling the inside of the waist starting to activate. So the shoulder and the knees are working hard here, imagining the wall behind us so that we're not rolling back, just moving in that single plane up and down. Level two, we're going to lift the hips off the mat. So bringing the shoulder, hip and knee into that diagonal. Inhale it down, exhale, lift. So even if you're just doing option one, you're still activating the same muscles, there's just less challenge really into the shoulder. So layer three, we're going to take the top arm overhead. Inhale back to center. Exhale, let's bring it up, really lifting through that waist. Again, the abdominals are working really hard here to keep us stable. Exhale. We're going to do three more, so 6 in total. Let's take it up. Bringing it down again. So lifting, pushing the hip up towards the ceiling, really trying to lengthen through the side of the waist. Exhale for the last one. Inhale, bring it down. Dropping down now onto our wrist. So you can rest onto the upper arm. Knees are coming forward. So now we've got our heels in line with our hip. Again, finding that neutral pelvis, pushing that top hip down so the top and bottom hip are stacked in front of each other, lengthening here between the rib cage and the pelvis. So we're going to inhale here. As we exhale, the knees are going to be glued together. We're just going to lift that top heel. So starting to rotate through the legs. So working here into the outside of our glutes. So big, strong glutes, bum muscles provide the extra support for the lower back. So anybody with lower back problems, I know there are a couple of you, working to strengthen those gluteal muscles is really important to take some of that strain. Exhale. Let's do 3 more. I think that's it, but I talk too much and I can't count. Exhale. Let's take it up. Exhale. So going to go the opposite way now. So now our heels are glued together. Going to start by lifting that top knee. So opening up through the hip. So a little bit more challenging here in terms of trying to keep the pelvis forward. So imagining that wall behind you. Maybe putting your top hand on your hip for a little bit of feedback. So just take the knee as high as you can without rolling backwards. So really squeezing those glutes, keeping that control within the pelvis, squeezing the thighs together as we come back. Exhale. Let's do 3 more. Really squeeze, try and get a little bit higher with each one. Exhale, bring it back to center, give your hip a little bit of a rub if you need to. Just stretching it out before we move to the other side. Let's take the bottom arm forward, take the other hand to meet it. So inhaling here, as we exhale, we're going to rotate that top arm overhead. So imagine that you're opening a huge book, rotating the chest towards the ceiling. Just feel that nice release through the spine. Inhale, let's bring it back. Exhale, don't worry about going this all the way over. I can't because the wall's in the way, but just take it as far as you feel something, some kind of release within your spine. Inhale, bring it back. Let's do 1 more. Exhale. Bringing it back. I'm going to flip you over the opposite side now. Taking it the opposite way. So we always have to work each side the same, unfortunately, and don't anybody walking around in circles. So sorry, we're coming up onto our elbow for this one. So tricky one first to get it out the way. So let's push the knees back. So we want the knees in line with the hip. Lift it up through the waist. So again, I'm going to give you those 3 layers. Inhale, as you exhale, layer 1. Just initiating that lift with the knees and the shoulder, just feeling that activation here in the side of the waist. Layer 2, we're lifting the hips. Layer 3, hips and the arm comes overhead. Let's take it over. Exhale. So again, just remembering that surface behind you. You don't want the hips to be rolling backwards, so just moving upwards and down. Exhale. Keeping those abdominals pulled in, pelvic floor working here as well. Exhale, pull those pelvic floor muscles upwards. Let's do 2 more. Exhale. Bringing it down. Last one, let's take it over. Gently release. Bringing the knees forward now. So remember the heels are coming in line with the hip. Let's drop it down onto the forearm. Just find that neutral pelvis, push that top hip in alignment with the bottom. Knees are glued together. As we exhale, let's lift the toes. So pointing through the toes, feeling that outside of the glutes, so the medial glutes here starting to work. Exhale, keeping lifted through the waist here. So the abdominals are still working hard. So I should be able to post a little letter under there with the abdominals active. There's that little arch that forms under the waist. Let's do 2 more. Exhale. Last one, truly rotate through that hip, bring it back to center. Now let's take it the other way. So we're keeping heels glued together now. Let's lift that top knee. Inhale it down. Exhale. Exhale, let's take it up. Let's do 3 more, making sure those hips stay pushed forward. So just isolating through that hip. Let's make this the last one. Bring it back to center. Give yourself a little bit of a rubber shake if you need to. Let's bring that bottom arm forward. Taking the top arm to join it. As we exhale, opening that top arm. So remember, opening that book, taking the chest out towards the ceiling. Inhale, back to center. A couple more of those, just rotating the spine the other way. So imagining your spine is a wet cloth. You want to squeeze out every little bit of water. Really emptying the lungs as we come over. Exhale. Bringing it back. Coming now onto our tummies. So come and lie on your tummy. Let's have a little bit of water because my throat's getting really dry. Okay. Perfect. So lying down on your tummy, make sure you can see my feet. There we go. So again, we want to find that neutral pelvis. So just give your pelvis a little bit of a roll backwards and forwards. Oh, I hope your back doesn't click like mine just did. Come and rest in that neutral position. So you should be able to feel your sort of hip bone, your pubic bone in contact with the mat. That's where we want to keep it. So taking the arms overhead. Just to explain this movement a little bit, you may have seen, if you've done yoga or maybe Pilates before, the cobra, where there's a lot of sort of this happens. So that really challenges the lower back and doesn't necessarily develop sort of flexibility and extension in the upper back. So we really need both to work together if we're going to kind of optimize our posture and our mobility. So we're just going to concentrate on the upper part of the back here. So taking the arms forward. Inhale here. As we exhale, I'm just going to walk the hands towards us, ever so gently, just maybe a couple of inches. Keeping the tummy, keeping the hips pushed down in contact with the mat, just starting to activate now through the thoracic spine, so the midsection of the back. Inhale, let's bring it down. Exhale, we'll do it again. So do it a few times. You may find that it starts to sort of release. You feel like maybe the next vertebra starts to get involved with the movement. Inhale, let's bring it back. Now let's do a couple more. Let's try and bring the hands a little bit further towards us this time. Again, if you notice the lower back is still quite sort of neutral in contact with the mat, bring it back to center. Let's do one more. So it really is quite a small movement here, but it is quite sort of effective in bringing that natural alignment and movement to the spine. Bring it back to center. Now I'm going to bring the arms into almost a W position or a cactus, if that makes sense. So if I show you standing, seated up, it's this position. But staying lay down. So just working a bit into the shoulder girdle here. So again, find that neutral position with the pelvis. Feet are working as our anchors, so the lower legs are still active. Inhale, as you exhale, just lifting the chest off the floor. Only a small movement again, so we're still moving the same section of the back, squeezing the shoulder blades together here, so really working the whole of the part of the back. Inhale, bring it down. Exhale, let's do it again. Inhale, bring it back. So a little bit more challenging here because we're lifting the weight of the arms as well. So if it's too much, you can just keep the arms in contact with the mat. Just still initiating that squeeze with the shoulder blades. Inhale. Exhale. We're going to do 2 more, so let's make it 6. Again, just thinking about what the pelvis is doing, keeping that neutral position, pulling that tummy button in as we exhale. 1 more. Bring it back to center. You can now bring the hands under the head. We're going to give the back a little bit of a rest.
So just coming back into that sort of neutral position. I'm afraid now we're going to be working your bums. So lifting one leg at a time. The aim here is to activate the glute muscles. So we want the leg to stay long. We want the knees to be straight, really lengthening through the leg, pointing the toes. Inhaling here, exhale, let's lift one leg ever so slightly. So pushing the hips down now into the mat beneath you. Inhale, bring it down. So we don't have a great deal of extension in the hip. So it's kind of automatic that we want to do this, but we're going to build that strength within the glutes. Keeping the leg long gives it more to work with, really challenges the glute muscles. So just staying with one leg for now, just so we can keep the pelvic alignment rather than moving from side to side. Let's do 2 more. Exhale. Last one, really squeeze the bum, bring it back to center. Just give your leg a little bit of a shake if you need to. We're going to switch over to the other side. So pointing that toe, inhale here. Exhale, let's lift from the glutes. If you find that you need to bend your knee or that you're struggling to lift your leg, start by activating the glute muscle and then lift the leg. Sometimes if we lift the leg first, the glute muscle doesn't recruit, particularly if it's weak or underused. So activating that first gives it a little bit of a head start. Let's do 3 more. Exhale. Exhale. Bring it back to center again. Just give yourself a little bit of a shake. I'm going to take the legs just a little bit further, so out towards the corner of the mat. Bending the knees now. We want to bring the heels together. So testing your proprioception if you can get your heels together without looking. So as we did with stage 1, we were lying by the side and doing our lifts. I just want you to initiate a movement here by squeezing the heels together. As you exhale, inhale, relax. Exhale, let's push the heels together. So working the glutes again. Working more now into the hip flexors, so into the hamstrings at the back of the leg. Exhale. So a very sort of simple movement, but it does trigger muscles that perhaps we don't sort of realise we have. We don't use that often. Let's do 2 more. Exhale. Gently release. Let's bring the legs back together. We're going to push up now, come up to a seated position. So just push back onto the heels. Just release through that lower back, really opening through the shoulders here as well. Just taking a few breaths here. Just taking a little moment to just reset. And we're nearly done. We're doing really well. We've got about 10-15 minutes to go. So we're going to start doing some gentle stretches and a little bit of relaxation. And then we will be done. Okay, so coming up now into a seated position. So your legs are crossed. If that's uncomfortable, you can take one leg forward or both legs forward. But then just be mindful to keep that neutral pelvis. Keep that length through the spine so that balloon is still working hard to keep us nice and upright. So I'm just going to take some breaths here because it takes us a bit of time to adjust from lying down to a seated position. So just take a couple of breaths. Just begin to wind down a little bit. We're going to bring the arms in front of us, clasp the fingers together. Just turn the palms towards me, towards the screen. Just push forward, rounding through the upper back. Just feel that nice release because we have done that work on the upper back. So just almost a counter position just to help release some of that effort. Just return the muscles to their natural alignment. Inhale, we're taking the arms overhead. Exhale, let's push up towards the ceiling. So lengthening now through the spine. Abdominals are still active.
So we want to kind of maintain about a third of our full contraction throughout our practice, just to maintain that sort of foundation really for us to work from. Let's bring the arms down, clasping the fingers behind us now. Let's push them away. Just opening up through the chest, really squeezing those shoulder blades together. My arms disappear here, it's quite freaky. Exhale, let's push those arms away. Bringing the arms now back to center, just gently release. Let's take one hand over to the opposite knee. Swing the other hand behind us, just push into that knee and feel that rotation through the spine. Again, remembering that wet cloth, you want to try and wring out every piece of water. Squeeze out every drop of air from the lungs. Bring it now back to center. Let's take it over the other way. Exhale. Gently bringing it back to center. So if your legs are crossed, let's take the legs long. Just stretching now into our hamstrings, so flexing the foot up towards you. You may find that's enough of a stretch through the back of the legs. Otherwise, we're going to hinge forward as we did before. So we're not taking the nose towards the knees, we're going to try and take the nose towards the feet. So still keeping that length through the spine. Feeling that nice stretch through the hamstrings and through the calves. Just taking a couple of breaths here. If you feel that you want to, as you exhale, you can take it a little bit further, keeping that contact between those sit bones and the mat. So keeping our hips grounded. Just feeling that length through the back of the legs. Inhale, let's bring it back to center. So we've got a few minutes left for relaxation if you want to join me for that. So you can either stay seated in a seated position, or if you want to come and lay on your backs. I'll give you a few moments to get yourself into position. It's always nice just to finish Pilates class with a nice relaxation. That's how I learned it. Not all teachers do it. But it just kind of brings you back down to earth, allows your body just to sort of prepare itself for the rest of the day. So just come into your chosen rest position. If you feel you need to put a jumper on or some socks, then do so. So just 5 minutes or so. So just gently closing the eyes. Just bringing your awareness to the space around you. Just noticing any sensations, any sounds. Just noticing them, just allowing them to be. Noticing the breath now, the rise and fall of the chest or of the belly. Just noticing where the breath is in the body. Just allowing each breath to fill the body with fresh oxygen. Allowing each exhale to take away any stress or any tension. I'm going to inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. So with each exhale, just letting go of any tension or discomfort in the body. Just taking this time just to notice and allowing your body to unwind. Let's inhale for 3, 2, 1. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Hold, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So noticing now how the body feels after your breathing and after your session with me today. Just bringing attention to the body, noticing any final areas of discomfort, tension. Just giving them a moment of your time, just allowing them to relax, just feeling the weight of the body on the mat beneath you. Just giving into that surface, just allowing the body this time to unwind. Starting to breathe a little bit deeper now. Bringing that oxygen back to the muscles. Just gently starting to turn the head from side to side. Starting to mobilize the spine. Starting to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Just gently coming back into the space around you. Gently opening the eyes when you're ready. Coming back up to seated. If you've been lying down, it's coming up nice and gradually. It's taking your time to come back up to seated. And finish off with a few more breaths. Inhaling here, exhale, let's take the arms overhead. Inhale, bring it down. Exhale, let's take it up. Inhale. Exhale, bring it up. Let's bring those palms together. Bring it back to center. All give yourselves a big round of applause because I'm sure you've all worked really hard. I can't see you, but you're all still with me, so that's a good sign. Thank you all so much for joining me. Got 5 other sessions left in the series, so Sunday at 11, and then the next 2 weeks after that. If you haven't left me a review on Facebook, please do, because I'm still trying to get myself started, and thank you everybody that's donated as well. It's been really brilliant, and I'm hoping that I'll make lots more, so thank you very much. I'm going to stay online if anybody wants to chat for however long I'm around, so I can unmute you all and we can chat, catch up, any questions. Otherwise, thank you all very much, and I hope to see you again. Bye.